Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara T Designs, and today I have this really pretty vibrant night sky 5x7 card to share with you. So let's jump right in. So I did need to bring out my rotary trimmer for this just because my little trimmer won't cut a 5x7. I mean, it can cut it, but I can't measure it just because the measurements don't go up to that size. So I did use my rotary trimmer just to cut this down, and I did it a 10x7 so that I could score at the 5-inch mark, making a 5x7 card. And then for my layers, because yes, I am going to mat this, I brought in my black cardstock that I love, and I'm going to cut that down. I believe it was honestly about, it's so hard because I eyeball everything, but I try to give you guys decent measurements. I think it was honestly about 1/4 of an inch smaller than my 5x7 base. And then this is my piece of HammerMill cardstock, and I cut it down to be smaller, like the same measurement smaller than my mat. So you can see that kind of really nice white border, or sorry, you'll see a white border here in a second when I put my base behind it, but you can see the black border behind the white panel. And then once I've scored and folded my 5x7 card here, you can see I scored at the 5-inch mark. I just reinforce that score with my Teflon bone folder. And then I'll lay the layers together to see if I like how they've kind of come out. And I do actually end up doing this one a little bit differently. You'll see her when we get closer to the end. I glued it down a bit differently than I normally do. And then I used my piece of HammerMill because that's what I love for blending because it's so smooth. I used it to blend on 3 colors of Distress Oxide ink. I started with Tattered Rose, and then I moved into Abandoned Coral, and then I finished off with Seedless Preserves. I mean, you could do any blend here. You could do blues and that would look beautiful. You know, you could do like orangey, more of an orangey yellow one, and that would give you kind of like a sunrise. That would look really pretty too. But yeah, completely up to you as to what colors you want to do. This is just, I like very vibrant colors, and I am generally really drawn to purpley pink shades. So this is a perfect blend for me. And I do like to blend through the colors twice. So you can see that I went through lightest to darkest, and then I'm going to go back through mid-tone and then light tone again, just to kind of even them out. I kind of like a little bit of a less blended look between the colors. I kind of like that bit of a divide, but you could absolutely blend this some more to get a more of a transition between the colors. I happen to like this, so I tend towards that, but completely up to you. And I do use dome foams because I do find it easier to lay down the color. And then I'm going to bring in a couple of splashes of Perfect Pearls that I have mixed up in a mini mister bottle. I still have to refill this. I still have not done that, so that will happen eventually. And then I'm going to cut out, I brought in 2 different die sets from Tim Holtz. This is Forest Shadows. So it gives you 2 different tree lines. And it didn't cut through the first time. So I'm using a piece of Simon Says Stamp Slate cardstock for this first tree layer. And I decided to pull out the magic mat from my sandwich and bring in the chrome precision cutting plate because these dies were fairly intricate and I was able to easily nestle that right back into where I had already die cut it. So I used Slate for this layer. And then I used the same black that I used for the mat for the next 2 trees. And I am going to cut that out twice, though I didn't show you that. I cut the black layer out twice. And then I also used Moonlight, which is another die set by Tim Holtz. It has it was a Halloween set, and it came out with 2 moon sizes and a bunch of bats. But of course, in this case, I'm not using it for a Halloween card. I'm just kind of doing like a night scene. But you could have put bats in here and done it a little more Halloween-y, change your color to the background a little bit oranger. But I chose to have this be more of a night scene than a Halloween-y theme, but you could do whatever you'd like. And I did use lemon chiffon for the cardstock here, and I'm also going to bring in some white glitter cardstock for the top layer. So the stars that you see me cutting also came in that Forest Shadows die set. So I kind of mixed two different die sets to make this work, because I love the moons out of Moonlight, and then the forest is just really fun to do silhouettes. If you guys have been with me for a while, you know that I love silhouettes. I think they're a lot of fun, and because I love to blend. So ink blended background with a silhouette image just always looks stunning. So it's kind of like a go-to for me when I get these kind of dies, because I get really excited about how they can go together, and I just love that. So I die cut, and I'm going to use these as flat colors. You could use blending on them if you really wanted to. I chose not to. I chose to leave the trees flat and the moon flat, just because I kind of like that look with that super vibrant background. I want the background to pull your eye, but you could, of course, add more shadow, more shading, more interest if you want to, for sure. And I did adhere this down, and this is that same Nuvo Deluxe glue that I'm really trying to get empty, and I'm pretty sure at this point I tossed it out after this, but it was a struggle to get enough glue to just glue the panel to my mat. But that's good, because that means I can finally use my new bottle. I've been nursing this bottle along for quite a while, so that is always a kind of like a success thing. So I did also bring in my art glitter glue just to make sure I had enough to make sure this panel would actually stick to the background, because the glue wasn't coming out very well. And so this layer I am actually going to center, and you're going to see when I adhere this down to the base later that I'm not going to center it. So I adhered my like glittery part to the moon, and I chose to line them up. You don't have to if you don't want to. They're a bit of an odd shape. They're not a perfect circle, which is perfectly fine by me. And then I'm just going to adhere a portion of the moon on, because I want to trim off what's left and kind of have it look like the scene's going outside of what you kind of see here. So I did choose to do the layer like the mat first, because I wanted the mat to be included in that kind of design. Only on the certain sides though. So it's kind of interesting. I did have to add this little piece of black cardstock because you were going to be able to see the colors like underneath the trees, and I didn't want that. So I chose to kind of add another piece of dark card, like the same black cardstock, underneath the trees so that I could hide the colored piece, because I didn't want you to be able to see that underneath there. I wanted you to be able to see like just darkness, right? Because that was the whole idea of the silhouette. So I just kind of adhered that down, and then I cut off the excess, and then I'm going to add, that extra tree layer and whatnot on top of it. So you can see here that I do have 2 layers of the black trees, and then I'm going to add the gray trees on top as the foremost layer. Now, this isn't necessarily realistic. You would probably have your darkest trees in the front if the moon is coming from behind, but that's not the point here. The point is just how I want it to look, and that's what we're going with. So this isn't necessarily realistic to where the light source is coming from, but I love how these dies kind of lay and look together. So I was perfectly happy with it. So then I make sure that all of my trees kind of go between each other as well, just to add a little more interest where I can. And then I'm going to cut. I believe this is where I decided to cut off the layers so that when I adhere it down to the next, like the base, I have little pieces that I can cut off. I cut the extra pieces off before I add it to the base so that you get the white background uninterrupted. Oh no, I lied to you. I'm going to add the stars first. So I did cut the stars out in both yellow and like that lemon chiffon and the white glitter. And I just kind of laid them around the background where I thought they would look pretty. There's no real rhyme or reason for this. This is my like addition to, like the extra bling. I just liked how they looked like this, and I think that they go really well with the stars that I've already kind of splattered on in the background with that perfect pearls mixture. You'll see it better here when I hold it up at the end. And then I did bring in my trimmer to trim this off, just because I'm cutting through so many layers of cardstock that I thought that I would get a way cleaner cut using my trimmer instead of the scissors. I am trying really hard to be careful, and I do line it up with the base with my finger. So you'll see me stick my finger against it and make sure that it is lined up properly before I cut. Because I've added these layers and they're sticking out, it's harder to judge where my layer should be based on measurements, and I don't want to accidentally cut off anything extra. So I did go around and just cut off whatever wasn't supposed to be there anymore that would hang over. And then I brought in a sentiment. Now I went back and forth on whether or not I was even going to add a sentiment, but I felt like Make-A-Wish really fit. So you could, if you had a camping person who loved to camp, this would be kind of like a great birthday card for them. But I honestly thought that it was just kind of a supportive idea, like Make-A-Wish, like shooting star-esque, although there isn't a shooting star in the sky of this card. But I just kind of thought that it was like whimsical and sweet, and that would be kind of a fun way to send a card to somebody. So I did opt to have my panel actually touch the bottom of the card base. So it's flush with the bottom of the card base, giving a slightly larger white border around the the sides and the top. And it kind of is neat because the black border is hidden behind the moon and the trees, so you only get peeks of it, but the white border is around the whole image, so it really frames it in well. So I just thought that was kind of a neat difference to what I normally do, and it's kind of fun to play with a different idea. So that is the card I have for you guys today. I hope you'll let me know what you think. Did you enjoy it? Would you recreate this card? What would you change if you were going to change something about it? I would love to know. Thank you so much, guys, and I hope you leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.